My name is Sofia, and I thought I had the perfect marriage with Bruno. We were the couple everyone envied, beautiful, successful, and deeply in love. Or so I believed, until that fateful day when a text message changed everything. It was a sunny Saturday afternoon, and we were enjoying a lazy lunch on the balcony of our apartment. Bruno was particularly affectionate, hugging me from behind while I prepared our mimosas. "You are the love of my life, Sophie," he whispered in my ear, sending shivers down my spine. "I don't know what I'd do without you." I turned to him, smiling, and kissed him passionately. "I love you so much, Bruno. We are so perfect together. I can't wait for us to start trying for a baby." Bruno swallowed hard and looked away. It struck me as odd, but I didn't dwell on it. We sat at the small table on the balcony to enjoy our mimosas and the beautiful city view. Suddenly, Bruno's phone, which was on the table, buzzed with a notification. Instinctively, I glanced at it and felt my blood run cold. It was from a contact simply named M and read, "I miss you, love. I can't wait to see you tonight." A million thoughts raced through my mind. Who was M? Why were they calling Bruno love? Was my husband cheating on me? But it made no sense. Our sex life was amazing, and I had never suspected anything. I looked at Bruno, stunned, and noticed he was pale, staring at his phone in shock, as if he couldn't believe what he was reading. "Bruno, who is M? What is this message about?" I asked, my voice trembling, feeling a lump forming in my throat. He lifted his eyes to me, looking terrified. He opened his mouth to say something, but no sound came out. His face turned red, and he started to stammer. It's nothing, Sophie. It must be a mistake, a prank from a friend." He tried to brush it off, but I could hear the lie in his voice. I grabbed his phone from his hand and began reading the previous messages. My heart raced as I scrolled through the conversation, tears stinging my eyes. "I can't wait to hug and kiss you tonight. I miss your scent, your body. I hate having to hide, pretending to be someone I'm not. I wish I could shout to the world that I love you." The messages grew increasingly intimate and explicit. There was no doubt Bruno was having an affair. But then one detail caught my attention. The messages always referred to Bruno in the masculine. "Love, my dear, my boyfriend." I felt my stomach churn and a bitter taste in my mouth. I stared at Bruno, who was now crying silently, unable to meet my gaze. "Marcos, it's him." "Isn't it? Your best friend, your colleague. Are you two together?" I asked, my voice choked with emotion. Bruno could only nod his head, sobbing. I stood up abruptly, feeling my legs weaken. My head was spinning, and I couldn't breathe properly. "How long, Bruno? How long have you been cheating on me, lying to me?" I screamed, feeling the anger bubbling inside me. I'm so sorry, Sophie. I didn't want you to find out like this. I was going to tell you, I swear, but I didn't know how." Bruno babbled between sobs. I laughed hysterically. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. My husband, the man I loved more than anything, was having a gay affair right under my nose, and he had the audacity to say he was going to tell me. Spare me your pathetic excuses, Bruno. I want to know the truth. All of it. Now, I demanded, feeling the hot tears streaming down my face. Bruno took a deep breath and began to speak, still unable to look at me, and with each word, I felt my world crumble a little more. The message was from Marcos, Bruno's best friend and coworker. It simply said, "I miss you, love. I can't wait to see you tonight." My world collapsed. Could Bruno be cheating on me? And with another man? I couldn't believe what I was reading. My heart pounded and my hands trembled as I stared at those words on Bruno's phone. He had gone to a meeting and left his phone on the living room table. When the message arrived, I instinctively looked, and now wished I had never seen it. 1,000 thoughts ran through my mind. Bruno and I had been married for 5 years, and I always believed we had a solid relationship based on love, respect, and trust. Of course, we had our differences like any couple, but nothing that would shake our commitment to each other, or so I thought. Now, seeing that message from Marcos, everything I believed seemed like a big illusion. They called each other love, clearly indicating an intimate relationship. But since when? How had I never noticed anything? And the most shocking part, Marcos was a man. In all these years, Bruno had never shown any interest in people of the same sex. Had he been hiding this from me all along? I felt dizzy, nauseous. I wanted to call Bruno and confront him immediately, demand an explanation. But at the same time, I was afraid of what I would hear, afraid that my marriage, my life as I knew it, would collapse before my eyes. I decided to try to calm down and think rationally. Maybe I was jumping to conclusions. It could be just a joke between friends, an inside joke I didn't understand. After all, Bruno and Marcos had been best friends since college, with a close and intimate friendship. But calling each other love seemed to cross any normal friendship boundary. I needed more information before taking any action. I decided to search Bruno's phone for more clues. With a heavy heart, I opened his conversation with Marcos and began reading the previous messages. And with each word, I felt my world fall apart even more. I can't stop thinking about you, Bruninho. Last night was amazing. I want to do it again soon. I miss your kiss. I can't stop thinking about you either, Marco. I'll find a way to leave work early today to meet you. I need to feel your body against mine again. The messages grew increasingly intimate and explicit. They spoke of secret meetings, declarations of love, and plans to make their relationship public. My eyes filled with tears, and I sobbed uncontrollably. There was no doubt left. Bruno, my husband, the man I vowed to love and cherish for life, was blatantly cheating on me with his best friend. I felt humiliated, used, and deceived. How could he do this to me? All our dreams, our plans for the future, now seemed like a big lie. I had dedicated the best years of my life to him, and this was how he repaid me? By cheating on me with a man behind my back? A million questions popped into my mind. How long had they been together? Was Bruno gay all this time? Was our marriage a big sham? Was I just a front for him to hide his true sexuality? How could I have been so blind, so stupid? Dropping the phone as if it burned my hands, I curled up on the couch, hugging my knees, and cried uncontrollably, feeling my heart shatter into a million pieces. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what my life would be from that moment on. Everything I believed, everything I held as certain, had been destroyed by a simple text message. After what felt like an eternity, I heard the key in the door. Bruno was coming home. I wiped my tears and stood up from the couch, determined. He had a lot of explaining to do, and depending on what I heard, this could be the last time we saw each other as husband and wife. Determined to investigate before confronting him, I followed Bruno after work and saw him enter Marcos's apartment. I waited for hours until he left in the early morning with rumpled clothes and a guilty expression on his face. My heart broke into 1,000 pieces. I knew I needed concrete proof before accusing Bruno of anything. As much as the messages I read on his phone were damning, a part of me still clung desperately to the hope that there could be a plausible explanation for all this. Maybe I was misinterpreting things, letting my jealousy and insecurity get the better of me. So, swallowing my pride, I decided to follow Bruno to uncover the truth. I called my best friend, Carla, and told her everything that was happening. She was shocked and offered to help with the investigation. Friend, I can't believe Bruno would do this, but if it's true, you need to catch him in the act before confronting him. Otherwise, he might try to deny it and manipulate you, Carla advised me. We agreed that she would meet me after work to follow Bruno together. I was trembling just thinking about what I might discover, but I had to see this through. On the agreed day, I made up an excuse to leave the office early and met Carla outside Bruno's company. When he left around 6 p.m., we discreetly got into my car and started following him through the city streets, keeping a safe distance so he wouldn't notice us. My heart was pounding, and my hands were sweating on the steering wheel. I silently prayed that Bruno was just going home or to a happy hour with coworkers. But my hopes were dashed when, after about half an hour of driving, he parked in front of Marcos's building. I felt my blood freeze in my veins as I saw Bruno get out of the car with a bouquet of flowers in hand and ring the intercom for Marcos's apartment. Even from a distance, I could see the anxious smile on his face as he waited to be buzzed in. When the gate opened, Bruno practically ran into the building, not even bothering to look around. "My God, Sophie. I'm so sorry. This doesn't look good," Carla said with a heavy heart, squeezing my hand. I couldn't even respond. My throat felt tight with restrained sobs, and a searing pain gripped my chest as if my heart was being crushed. We sat there for what felt like an eternity, watching the building's entrance. Each passing minute hit me harder with the harsh reality. My husband was indeed cheating on me, and with his best friend. How could he do this to me? How could he lie to me like this, pretending everything was fine between us while stabbing me in the back? I felt like the biggest fool and idiot in the world. All the signs were there, but I refused to see them. The poker nights with friends that lasted until the early hours. The suspicious messages and calls Bruno always tried to hide from me. The way he and Marcos exchanged looks and touches when they thought no one was watching. How could I have been so blind? It was past 2 a.m. when Bruno finally left the building. He looked exhausted but had a satisfied smile on his face. His clothes were rumpled and his hair disheveled, as if he had just gotten out of bed. When he got into his car and drove past us, I noticed his shirt was buttoned wrong, exposing part of his chest. The sight was like a knife to my already shattered heart. The evidence of what he had been doing was glaringly obvious. I had no more doubts about what was happening. My husband was having an affair with Marcos right under my nose. And worse, a gay affair. Something I could never have imagined or competed with. When Bruno disappeared from view, I finally broke down in convulsive sobs, crying loudly. Carla hugged me tightly, stroking my hair. "Let it out, friend. Let it out. I'm here for you," she whispered, her voice choked with emotion. "How could he, Carla? How could he do this to me? I gave my life to him, gave up so much, and he stabs me like this, with Marcos. I want to die." I poured out amidst the tears. I know. What he did is beyond cruel. But you can't give in to despair. You'll get through this. We'll expose him and make him pay for every tear you're shedding," Carla said firmly. I knew she was right. I would need to muster all my strength and courage to face Bruno and demand the truth. As painful as it was, I couldn't live in that lie any longer, and he would have to face the terrible consequences of his actions. Determined to confront Bruno, I waited until the next day when he came home from work. As soon as I saw him enter, I called his name, my voice serious and firm. "Bruno, we need to talk. Now." He looked at me, confused, probably puzzled by my assertive demeanor. Usually I greeted him with a smile and a kiss, but today there was no room for affection, just the raw, naked truth. "What's wrong, love? Did something happen?" he asked, approaching me. I stepped back, raising my hand to prevent him from touching me. My eyes already burned with the tears threatening to overflow, but I forced myself to look at him. "Don't call me love. You lost that right when you decided to cheat on me," I spat out the words, watching the shock and panic wash over his face. Cheat on you? What are you talking about, Sophie? I would never do that. Bruno tried to defend himself, stammering. I laughed bitterly. The tears now flowed freely down my face, but I no longer cared. I wanted him to see the pain and disappointment etched on my face. Don't play dumb, Bruno. I know everything. I saw the messages on your phone. I saw you enter Marcos's apartment last night and leave in the early morning with rumpled clothes and a guilty look. I poured out, my voice breaking with sobs. Bruno turned pale. He opened and closed his mouth several times, as if trying to say something but unable to find the words. His eyes were filled with sheer desperation. Sophie, I can explain. It's not what you think, he tried, reaching out to touch me. I recoiled as if his touch burned me. I felt revulsion, disgust imagining those hands that had once caressed my body touching Marcos, caressing another man. Explain what? That you're gay and have been deceiving me all this time? That our marriage was a sham for you to hide your true sexuality? That you and your lover laugh behind my back at the clueless wife who suspects nothing? I spat out the words, trembling with rage and pain. No, it's not that. I'm bisexual. I've always been. But I truly love you, Sophie. What I have with Marcos, it was a mistake. I didn't mean for it to happen. Please forgive me. Give me a chance to make things right, Bruno pleaded, tears now streaming down his face too. But to me, his words sounded empty, meaningless. Bisexual? So what? That didn't justify the betrayal, the lies. He had a commitment to me, had vowed fidelity before God and all our friends and family, and he threw all that away for an affair with another man. How can you say you love me? Love means respect, honesty. You trampled on our love, on our marriage. I trusted you, gave you my heart and my body, and you stabbed me in the back in the worst way possible, I sobbed, my voice faltering. I'm so sorry, Sophie. Truly. I know I made a terrible mistake, but we can get through this. I'll distance myself from Marcos. I'll make it up to you somehow. But please, don't give up on us. Bruno fell to his knees in front of me, clutching at my legs. I wanted so much to believe him, to wish this was just a nightmare from which I would wake up to find my loving and faithful husband by my side. But the truth was, like a punch to the gut, I could never trust him again. With my heart bleeding, I disentangled myself from his grasp and took a step back. I removed my wedding ring and threw it on the floor in front of him. There is no us anymore, Bruno. You killed our marriage the moment you decided to cheat. I want a divorce. Don't look for me. Don't try to convince me otherwise. It's all over. It ended the moment you chose to be with him, I declared, feeling like I was ripping out a part of myself along with those words. Then I turned and walked out the door without looking back, hearing Bruno's desperate sobs calling after me. Each step was like a stab wound, but I had to be strong. I had to rebuild my life, learn to stand up on my own. It was the hardest decision I had ever made, but there was no other way. Our fairy tale had turned into a nightmare, and there was no going back. All that was left was to move forward and try to piece together the shards of my heart and my life. One step at a time. After the painful confrontation with Bruno and throwing my wedding ring on the floor, I left the house in a daze, aimless. All I wanted was to disappear, to hide from the world and the searing pain tearing through my chest. I got into my car and drove aimlessly through the city streets, tears blurring my vision. I don't know how long I wandered without a destination, until I found myself parked in front of Carla's building, my best friend. She had been my rock the day before, and I knew I could count on her unwavering support now. With trembling legs, I went up to her apartment and rang the bell. When Carla opened the door, She needed only one look at my devastated face to understand what had happened. She pulled me into a tight hug, holding me as I broke down in sobs once again. "Oh, friend, I'm so sorry. Come in. I'll take care of you," she said softly, guiding me to the couch. Through my tears, I told her everything that had happened, how I confronted Bruno and demanded a divorce. Reliving that conversation was like tearing the wound open again, but I needed to get it out. "You were so brave, Sophie. I know it's not easy, but you did the right thing. You couldn't continue in that false relationship," Carla assured me, holding my hands. "I know, but it hurts so much." "Carla, it's like someone ripped my heart out of my chest and stomped on it. I never imagined he could do this. How did I not see the signs before?" I lamented, sobbing. "No one expects to be betrayed like this, especially by their husband. You trusted him. You had no reason to suspect. The blame lies entirely with him for being a lying coward," she seethed, anger flashing in her eyes. We sat there for a long time, hugging each other, as Carla comforted me and assured me that everything would be okay. I decided to spend the night at her apartment. I was in no emotional state to return home and face Bruno again. But little did I know that my personal hell was just beginning. The next day, I received a call from Marcos, the one who had caused all this destruction. I answered only to hear what that scoundrel had to say. "Sofia, it's Marcos. Please don't hang up. I need to talk to you," he pleaded, his voice sounding desperate. "What do you want, Marcos? Haven't you caused enough damage in my life already?" I responded, feeling the anger boil inside me. I know I made huge mistakes and don't deserve your forgiveness. But you need to know the truth. Bruno loves you. He never wanted to hurt you." I laughed scornfully, cutting off his pathetic speech. "Spare me your nonsense. Marcos, if he loved me, he wouldn't have cheated, especially with another man. You two are just alike, nothing but lying cowards," I spat, feeling the tears well up in my eyes again. "No, you don't understand. What happened between Bruno and me? It wasn't planned. It was a mistake, a moment of weakness. He was confused about his sexuality, needed support, and we ended up getting involved. But he regretted it deeply and wanted to tell you everything," Marcos tried to explain. This only made me angrier. So Bruno was having an identity crisis and decided to betray his marriage vows to explore his gay side? That's no excuse, Marcos. He had a commitment to me, a vow of fidelity. If he was confused, he should have talked to me, not stabbed me in the back with my best friend. "You both disgust me," I yelled, losing control. "Please, Sofia, don't throw everything away like this. Give Bruno a chance to explain properly. He loves you so much. Don't let one mistake destroy your love," Marcos implored. But I didn't want to hear anymore. I couldn't forgive something like this. The betrayal, the broken trust, the lies. Nothing could fix that. "Enough, Marcos. Stop trying to manipulate the situation. What you and Bruno did is unforgivable. You destroyed my life, my dreams. I want nothing to do with either of you. Tell Bruno to sign the divorce papers without causing trouble. It's the least he can do. And don't ever dare contact me again," I declared coldly, ending the call. After that, I collapsed to the floor, crying uncontrollably once more, feeling the pain and betrayal suffocate me. How could I rebuild my life after this? Would it be possible to trust, to love again someday? I didn't have the answers, but one certainty prevailed amidst all the emotional turmoil consuming me. Bruno and Marcos had destroyed much more than just my marriage. They had shattered my heart and my ability to believe in love, and I didn't know if I would ever fully recover from that.